My husband and I are moving out of state. We know we can do this financially, but what are other things we should consider before we make this move?
Yeah, we've seen this a lot within the practice. I think we have clients in 26 states outside of California, and all over California for that matter, but moving out of state. And one of the reasons is because we have this ginormous appreciation of real estate here in Silicon Valley. And that allows people then to kind of capture some of that and move to Arizona or Nevada or Tennessee or Texas or wherever it is that they want to go. And so it is kind of interesting to us, to watch that process, and how did it work? What's the feedback? What should people be watching for? And I would say, for me personally, just looking at what's going on, I would say the health care of the area has got to be something that you look at, because I have a client that moved up into a very rural area, very pretty, really excited to be there, had some land even that they wanted, to do some things. And they got a kidney stone. And there's a van that would come around about every 3 weeks that had the ultrasound in it that would, break up the kidney stone. He was in quite heavy pain, had to wait for 2 weeks for the van to come around. So, you got, as you get older, there's more chance to have more medical issues. And so we've had clients that have had Parkinson's, and we have clients that have had cancer, and they're in these areas, and all of a sudden they're having to, drive back to these more dense areas where there is better medical facilities and what have you. So I'd say taking a look at healthcare. Every place says they have great health care, but if you're living here in the valley, you are leaving some really good health care. You might not find that in these other places, but I think that would be a good consideration in terms of trying to figure out, where you might go.
Yeah, and some other things that I think you should consider before picking a spot is weather. How's the weather? If you're in the Bay Area, example myself, I lived out in Boston for college, and I did not do well in the winter, so I decided to come back to California. And so, can you handle the weather there? Another one is the demographic. Are you in a place where you're happy with the people around you? Do you want to be in a college town? Do you want to be in kind of an older retirement community? And also disasters. Are you moving to somewhere that could have a bad disaster, or prone to disasters? That's another one you should consider.
Yeah. I have a client, and not many people do this, but I thought it was really wise. They had targeting different areas that they were interested in, and they were renting Airbnb, so they could kind of be in a house in relatively area that they might end up in, and they would go for a fairly long term, 2-4 weeks. And they were already retired, so they had some time, and it was fun for them, and they got to go all over the place, and that allowed them to kind of really narrow down where they wanted to go and make that decision. It's not easy to move, right? You don't want to have to do it again and find out you don't like it. So I thought that was really wise. It does take some time and even a little bit of money, for renting the place. But I think that's interesting. One other consideration that I would think about too just has to do with you're about to sell an asset. It might be one of your biggest assets, which is your home. Is this the time to sell it or not? And so, because I get too many people that are lining up with, kind of these thought processes. Well, you only sell at this time, it's a spring or, whatever. Well, in this year, for example, you were better off selling in January and February than you were in the spring and April, May, and June, just because the rates of mortgages went up so much. And that really softened the market. So I would be looking at least from a pure financial standpoint, trying to deal with some of the peaks and troughs. Now, you're going to sell for less possibly, and maybe you can buy for less too. So that's a good thing. But that's just something to consider there as part of the calculus for when you should move. Is how do you maximize this asset that you have as far as that goes. So because right now is a tough time to sell, might be interesting time to buy, but you're most likely doing this to sell something that is bigger, more expensive, to buy something that is cheaper. So if you lose, $500,000 on the price of your property here to go buy a property that's $100,000 less, Yeah,
Net difference is pretty worse.
yeah. So and that's the problem, right? So yeah, you're getting that other property for cheaper, but it was smaller, and you're losing more money on your big property. And so trying to find those times where, and again, it depends on your flexibility as far as that goes, and kind of wait through this and see if the market can stabilize and get going again, and that kind of stuff. So I definitely consider the value of the home as part of that. And boy, it was interesting to watch. You could see people just kind of jumping on the bandwagon to get out of here, when those prices were really going. And now you're seeing those people that just missed the bandwagon, whose signs are still up on their front lawns, waiting to sell. Yeah. And so I do think that's a piece of the puzzle. I'd certainly be considering that if I was planning on moving out of the state. I had a client very intelligently didn't want to move out of the state because his job was continuing for a couple more years, sold anyway, right near the top, got way more than asking, and just as renting a place, he just wanted to capture the craziness. Mm-hmm. And if he waited, it would have been around now, actually about 6 months from now, and he wouldn't have gotten that same price, I don't think. Mm-hmm. So really smart move there, but kind of a hassle. Had to move out, got to move twice. So anyway, but that's, sometimes that's worth it.